Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video we're going to talk about how we might have a blowout Q3 earnings call from Palantir, because I believe there's some possible hidden surprises, but I must warn you that you need to put your tinfoil hat on, and this is complete speculation on my part, but there is a possibility that this is going to play out. So it's going to be very interesting, very nerdy. This is strictly for Palantir investors. And as always, if you like this, please make sure you hit the subscribe button. And if you want to go further and help out the Swedish guy in the middle of the European energy crisis, please check out the Patreon link in the description box below. We already have 3 Patreons. Quite unbelievable to me. Anyways, I would really appreciate if you checked it out. And now let's begin the video. So as Palantir investors, we always get sort of a sick, nauseating feeling when it comes to earnings calls, because the last 2 earnings calls we have been basically taken from behind with our pants down, and the stock has fallen so much after the earnings. But this earnings call might be a little bit different, and there is 2 reasons for this. One of them is the expectations have been set to extremely low, and this is also reflected in the stock price. So Palantir basically doesn't need to, they just need to have a somewhat decent quarter, and we're going to not have a crash, right? But I believe that we're going to have the opposite happen, and we're going to have quite a blowout quarter. And I mean, we are in a bear market, so we don't know what's going to happen, but my guess would be that we will have skyrocketing price after the earnings call. Now, why do I say this? That is because Palantir has gotten $712 million of contracts just in the month of September. So this has been compiled by a Twitter account and then retweeted by Emmett. And I did a little table on this on my own to make it simple, because, you know, some of the contracts are 1 year, some is 5 years, some is 6 years. And I wanted to see like, okay, how much does the contract affect next year for Palantir, and how much does it affect per quarter? So as you can see, this is the list of the contracts. You can see that many of them is US government and army. And this is very good for a couple of reasons. So first of all, one tailwind or headwind in the earnings call is going to be the super strong US dollars. It's for many companies. So the more Palantir can sell in the US with the very strong US dollars, the better it is currently for earnings. And as you can see, almost all the contracts are with the US government. Then the second thing is that it's normally the US government contracts that are being announced. This is what I have seen. And some companies don't disclose that they work with Palantir. We have had a major slowdown in the government section. And this has been reasoned with, you know, contracts taking longer time, and certain defense things have not been assigned. And I basically bought this, but Wall Street didn't like this explanation. But we can see that this shows a significant reacceleration of the government sector. So here you can see all the contracts. You can see that they total 711 million. But as I said, you see some are 5 years, some are 4 years, some are 1. The thing that was very hard for me to see is which contracts are new and which ones are, you know, a continuation of an existing contract. But as far as I could tell, most of this is new contracts. Some of them, like the Hyundai contract, I know is an expansion of a previous contract. So it's not going to increase the income or revenue of Palantir by 5 million per year and 1 million every quarter. It's going to probably increase, I don't know, like 20 or 30, but it's an increase nevertheless. But many of the big ones is brand new contracts. There was a 470 million, or like this one, US Army Lab, $229 million. And it's only a 1-year contract. And as far as I could tell, that's a brand new contract. So meaning that this is purely going into the top line. And every quarter, it's going to increase Palantir's revenue by 57 million. And when Palantir is doing 460 per quarter, that's a more than a 10% increase just from this one contract, right? So if we look down at these contracts, so we see that these increase the yearly revenue by 406 million. So I want you to know that this was done in 1 month by the sales team. I know that they have been working many months, so this is the culmination of a lot of months' work. But nevertheless, this is what happened, what was contracted in, and 406 million income per year. Now, Palantir is going to maybe do around 2 billion this year. So that is a 20% increase. As I said, I couldn't see which contracts was renewal and which one was new, but most of them were new. So I would say that, let's say, at least 12 to 13% growth was sold only in September month and only to the government sector. And as we know that the commercial sector is doing crazy well and those deals don't get announced. So why am I so happy with this? So one of them is that they're probably going to revise the guidance. Let me show you the guidance that we have seen, and then we go into the tinfoil hat stuff. So this is Palantir's Q1 report. Here they are already lowering the guidance. This was the first time we were taken from behind with the pants down, because they were lowering their operating margin for Q2. And here's the very interesting thing. They were guiding for a 30% growth and an operating margin of 27% for the full year of 2022. And everybody had the question of, okay, if you're getting a 20% margin in financial in Q2, how the F are you going to get 27 for the whole year? Because that would mean that Q3 and Q4 would have to be complete blowout quarters with like almost 40% margin. And nobody was addressing where this would come from in the earnings call. So this is the Q2 earnings report. And here they lowered the guidance even more. And they did it in a very annoying way that you had to take your calculator to see what the adjusted operating income was. But let me show you. I did, of course, all this math for you. Let me just make my head smaller. So you can see that they guided for a 12% adjusted operating income, which is horrible. Keep in mind, before you get a heart attack, that this is the stuff that has been already counted into the stock price. So you can see that the operating margin basically starts nosediving and then it falls off a cliff. So it goes from 30% to 29, 28, 27, 23, and then 12. Houston were crashing. And then the full year guidance was even worse, and they were guiding for 11%. And you can also see here that adjusted operating income was also nosediving from 121 per quarter to 108 million to 54 million. And you know, I'm a guy who likes to nerd on this stuff, and I was looking everywhere in their reports to find a good explanation for this. And I just could not find an explanation other than a few clues that they were adding, which was saying that when you're in your toughest position, I think they were mentioning the Russia-Ukraine war, that they're not going to not deliver the services to you just because the paperwork is not signed and budgets are not approved. And they used a gigantic balance sheet to, go ahead and, allocate resources to the cause and, get in the money later. And this is why I'm so bullish. And again, this is complete speculation, is because I believe that what happened in Q2 already is they were diverting resources to do army stuff for the US or the Ukraine. Now, I don't know if it was the US directly buying from Palantir or the US giving aid to Ukraine and then Ukraine buying from Palantir. And they had a very big problem because the contracts were not being approved. So they could not, they had the cost, which they counted in their accounting, but they didn't have the income to pair it with the cost. And I believe that it might be that they are going to have a significantly improved operating margin because now they have got the contract and they're able to account for these extra work that they have been doing since Q2, in Q3 and in Q4. And if this is the case, this means that all of Wall Street are going to rethink their expectations. They are probably going to increase their financial projections. I mean, that's Palantir, which Wall Street has to also recalculate. And this would result in a skyrocketing share price. So again, this is tinfoil stuff, but I really do believe, based on all the clues, that this is the case. And some of the contracts that came from the US Army Lab or some of the US new contracts that they have gotten is work that they have already been working on for this geopolitical situation. And finally, we see, I'm not happy that they're making money on the war, but finally we see the result of what they have been saying. And we can see that LX Corp is not crazy, only a little bit. And the company is actually doing crazy freaking good. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you agree with me Or are you also afraid of what might be the end result of the Q3 earnings call? Are we going to get a 20% drop again? Or do you think the stock price is going to skyrocket? And if you have been watching so far, thank you so much. You're definitely an OG viewer. Please make sure you're subscribed, and I will see you in the next video. Ciao, ciao.